This is Chad Williams, and I'm going to run you through Psych 300A's Computational Lab 1. So here we're going to be doing it in R. You might have this screen so far if you've installed R with RStudio, and if you haven't, go back to the other video about doing that. And so what we have is our console, we have our environment, and our plots here. What we do need is a script. So I'm going to go to the top. You can't actually see it, but I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to say New File, R script. So that gives us a new panel here. So everything we write in here is savable. So that way we can pull it up later once we want to keep working on it or use it again in the future. So we want to use scripts as much as possible. Now with R, there's an extra point here where you need to learn a bit of programming. Now with this video, I'm going to put on the top right links to other of my videos which are going to walk you through a bit of concepts in R in case you need that information. So it's things like what is a variable and so forth. So if you are new to R and programming, make sure that you're looking at those. One thing I will say is I think programming is very valuable, and here's my first video that I'll link up, which is why I think you should learn R. So you're here, so you're potentially already doing that, so good for you. I think it's very important to learn how to program. So this might be a good stepping stone towards that. Alright, so we have already installed R with RStudio, so that's step 1 of our lab assignment, so that's already done. Step 2 is loading data. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a comment. So I'm going to put hashtag load data. Now a comment, and I'll put a link on the top for that as well, is just a way of organizing our data. It's not actually going to run or anything, it's just telling us what we're about to do. Now, to load data, we need to first show R where our data is. So you know where it is. You know what folder it's in, things like that, but R does not. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top to a button called Session. Again, you can't see it, but just click that button. We're going to go to Set Working Directory and then choose Directory. Doing this allows us to show it where our data is. And here I'm going to find my Psych 300A. You can see I've already done the JASP video here, but there is our data file. Now we're not clicking the data file, we just want to show it what folder it's in. So now we hit open, and that actually runs this line of code for us. Now we could have written this by hand, but here we just didn't. So now what we need to do is actually load our data. So we're going to create a variable here, and so I'm going to link a video for variables and what they are. And so our variable here is going to be called my_data. Cool, and then I'll put equals, and then we're going to put read.csv. Now this is a function, so I'll put another link up about what functions are, but essentially it's a bunch of script within something, and in this case within this read.csv, that's going to do stuff for us. But we don't need to know what that script is most of the time because it does it for us. So now I'm going to just put in single quotations, but you could also use double quotations either way. I'm going to put our file name. So for us it's Psych 300A Psych 300A dataset.csv. Now you might have named yours differently, and that's fine. Just put in whatever it's named for you there. We're also actually outside of those brackets going to put comma header equals true. What this means is, do we have titles for each of our columns on the top of our file? And in our file we do. So that way what it's going to do is it's going to actually name our data frame that we'll see in a second for us explicitly. If you don't have those, this should be false, but it's defaulted to false, so you just can remove that altogether. All right, so if we run this, I'm going to highlight it and hit run. Now what the run button does is it lets you just run whatever's highlighted. So I could run, part of this, but it'll crash. But if I had more than one line, then I can run just parts of it at a time. The source button will run everything in your script, all of it, all at once. So if you're looking just to do all of it, then hit source. If you're looking just to do part of it, hit run. So now what we see is we have a new variable, my_data, and this is in our environment. So we have 13 observations and 5 variables. Let's look at what that means. If I click this open, there's our data. So I have our 5 different variables and then 13 different people. That's an important thing here. You're going to have more than 13 people, and there's the 13th So I'm just using a subset of data just to show you the processes, and you can run this stuff yourself so that you can actually get the answers for the lab assignment itself. Perfect. Now, if you don't know what each of these variables mean, we did put descriptors in the actual lab assignment itself, so make sure to read up on that and what they mean. Great. So we've done a little bit of stuff, so it's always good to save our data. So I'm going to go File, Save, and then it's already in the right folder, so I'll put Psych 300A, let's say output. Well, it's not technically output, we're going with it. And what this is going to do is it's going to save a .r file, okay? Now, what that is everything we have here. So we're going to run things as we go, but that's not going to load automatically. What's going to load automatically is this, and then you can rerun them later. So now we have my data. Perfect. So that is step 2. We've loaded our data. Now, step 3 is computing descriptive statistics. So let's add that as a comment, just to remind us what we're doing here. Perfect. So we're actually going to use something called a package or a library. We're going to use the PSYC package. I'm going to put another link about what our package is, but essentially it's the idea that we talked about what functions are very briefly, and I linked a video. A package is just a bunch of functions all wrapped up together, and the PSYC package specifically has its own specific packages. Now, for us to load a package, we're going to need to write library and then put the name of the package in that. So I'm going to put PSYC here. Now, that's just loading it, but the first time you ever use a package, you need to first install it, okay? And that's actually super easy. We're going to do it down in our console and go install.packages, okay? Now this, we're going to now put what package in here though. This is in the console because we only need to run this once. Once we've installed it, we don't have to install it again in the future. But every time you want to use it, you do have to load it with this library function up here, okay? So this install packages, we're now going to put in single or double quotations, psych, okay? Then if I hit enter, it's going to do some stuff. And the only other time you want to run this, if you've done it already, so I actually already have psych here, but it'll also update it. So if there's ever the library or package ever gets updated, then to update it on your computer, you need to rerun this install packages thing. So let's look at what that did. So it said things trying to blah, 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 downloaded stuff. So I did actually get an update there. Yours might be a little bit more output because if you're installing it for the first time, it'll have more to it. Okay, so now that it's installed, we can run this line of code now. Now, not much is going to happen, but suddenly we now have access to all of the functions within this package. So we are doing descriptive statistics here, and luckily for us, one of the functions from the psych package is called describe. So I'm going to put describe and in brackets my underscore data. So that's the data frame we made up here, okay? So that's all of our data. So if I run this, what we get is a spatter of information. So we have our mean, our standard deviation, our median, some things that we don't need, like trimmed, our MADs there as well, and then our range, and those are what we're looking for. Perfect. So now it's up to you to add these to the table in the assignment, and don't forget that not all of these values or measures are appropriate for each of our variables, okay? So make sure you're only reporting the appropriate measures for each of your variables and not all of these. So these statistical programs are going to give you everything you ask for, but it's up to you to know what is actually appropriate to report and what is not. So make sure you're taking that in consideration. The one caveat here is there's no mode, and we do require a mode. Okay, so there are lots of different packages and lots of different functions in R, but I haven't actually been able to find a good mode package for one reason or another. So we're actually going to make a mode function ourselves here and now to get the mode for each of these. Now, it's going to be a little bit complicated, and I'm really just going to ask you to write it verbatim of what I'm writing. So I'm going to put in hashtag creating mode function. Then we're going to then use this mode function. Now I'm going to write it out. I'm not going to explain it to you and what everything's doing because it's a little bit beyond this lab assignment, but just follow along and use this. So I'm going to put mod equals, that's going to be the name of my function, just like describe is the name of this function. We're going to later use mod. And then I'm going to go function in brackets data. Now this isn't the same as this, but it could be, no problem. We're going to populate it later. And what we're going to do is we're going to have these squirrely brackets. And I'm going to make a little bit of space. On the next line, I'm going to put unique x equals unique data. And then on the next line, I'm going to put tabulate x equals tabulate brackets match brackets again data comma unique underscore x. So that's a little bit more convoluted, but we're using a function of match within the function of tabulate there. Data refers to these data names that we've been using, and unique x refers to the first line that we had in this. We have one more line, which we will do as unique underscore x with square brackets, tabulate underscore x equals, so two equals there, max tabulate underscore x. Now I know this is pretty complicated and it's okay. This is more advanced. We're creating a function of doing a mode, but like I said, I'm not going to walk through it here because it is beyond this. But make sure that you have exactly all of this together. So then we're going to run all of this together and we're going to get a new thing in our environment, which is a function mod. Cool. So now we can use that function. It doesn't do anything yet, so we still need to use it. So I'm going to add a new comment, which is determine modes. And we're actually going to use this function once per column, okay? So I tried to keep this as simple as possible, so I didn't want to do it so it would automatically do it for each column, so we're just going to do one at a time. So the way we can use this function now is go mod, which is the name of the function up here, and then in brackets put whatever data we want. So this says data because it's a generic placeholder, but our data is called my data, right? So I'm going to take that and put it in here. Perfect. So if I do that and then run it, it's going to give me a bunch of output. But what I said is we're going to do one column at a time. To choose one column, we take our variable name, and after that put a $sign, and then we can choose which column we're interested in. So let's start off with live. So the mode for our column live in our variable myData is going to be 2. So that is the number that appears the most, and let's look at that here. So we see in my data specifically, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times the number 2 appears. So our mode is 2, and it has a frequency of 5. So we're going to keep doing that. I'm just going to copy paste, and then we're going to change each of these. One other way I can look at these column names so I don't forget what they're called is clicking that little arrow, and then I'm going to put excitement, and then I'm going to put temperature, and then so forth. I'm going to run one at a time, then we're going to have our modes for each. So I already did this one, but there it is again. So for live it's 2. For excitement, there's actually 2 modes here. It's 5 and 2. And then for temperature it's 13. For stream it's 260. And finally for height it's 160. Now again, this is a subset of data, so these will be different for you. And make sure you're reporting the appropriate measures into our table on your assignment. Perfect. Thanks. That should be about it.